This was the site of the Tea Party festivities at the Alamo. People from all walks of life, from all political backgrounds, came together in a sweeping indictment of Washington. Holding signs and waving flags, protesters gathered to confront the government about issues bothering them, namely taxing future generations, government intrusion, and unconstitutional overreach. Texas, known for its conservative tenor, didn't seem to have affection for any political party, and after Washington's track record over the last 20 years, were demanding responsible representation. Stanley and Gail Kachuba, originally from Chicago, came to Texas with the intentions of making a better life for themselves. On the surface, it would seem they had succeeded. Stanley, a small business owner, and Gail, a tenured professor, moved to a small town outside of Wichita Falls, where they'd hoped to escape the corruption of Chicago. But for Stanley and Gail, the battle to preserve their way of life is just beginning. Stanley, you own multiple businesses back in Illinois, and Gail, you were a tenured professor at DePaul University. What made you give all of that up?
Well, personally, I was really happy at DePaul University. I liked that. But I think living in Chicago, which I did for about half my life, in the suburbs of Chicago, we saw people had different types of values. It was okay to lie, cheat, and steal. Just a simple example, I remember putting an alarm on one of my cars back when they used to not be standard. And it was such a nice little shop. It was family owned. Signs on the wall about thank you so much for this. And a really young man who looked like Michael J. Fox handled my business. And at the end he said, and of course you ordered Model B of the alarm, but your reimbursement from insurance would be bigger if it's Model A. So I've signed the fact that you actually purchased Model A. And the whole image was destroyed. And that's just one example. We saw so many things like that. And we were really looking for a better way to raise our son.
Also, with our son, right at this point, he's in the 6th grade. I can see how the disintegration of other family values was affecting our son. Meaning, let's see about going to church on Sunday. My friends don't do that. I don't want to participate in any sports. It's not the cool thing to do. The schools kept you away from. When I was young, of course, I had to go to the gym 1 hour every class. Now the kids, well, they don't like the right uniforms. They don't like this. It's like too politically correct. And so we just needed to put him someplace else where he needed other values. So I'm so proud of him from the 6th grade, kind of like a slug, okay? Being honest with you, lazy. And by the time he went through Texas schools as a senior, he played varsity football. From this to this. And it has to get there from somewhere. There's a lot of illegal practices in the mindset of Chicago. It's normal. It's
accepted.
It's acceptable. That I could buy a hot box and get different cable stations. They didn't think anything was different. That's just the way it worked.
Or bragging about, I bought a VCR that fell off a truck. So somebody would steal 1,000 VCRs from somewhere, and then, people we knew would say, I got this VCR for only $50 or whatever. And like they were all proud that they got that good deal. And after a while you think, how can you, this just surrounds me. You feel like you need a shower all the time. So we feel better about living in Texas.
At what point did you realize that escaping to Texas wasn't going to be enough?
I think you're talking about being more politically active. I know that I've always been knowledgeable politically. I've always researched every time. I've voted every time. I've always researched every single vote, but it was passive. I never did anything. And I would say that it's about a year ago that we started really, which we were probably late on the bandwagon, started really realizing that something's just not right at the country level. It's not just Chicago. And so the move to Texas was great for personal reasons, but we started feeling bad about the direction of the country. And finally, after, it's only so many times you can throw something at your television before you realize this isn't doing anything, I need to do something else.
The passiveness of a lot of people, even from Illinois, I had many friends still left over there. I still talk to occasionally. But there's a passiveness of, let's see, Illinois is a Democratic state, and there's nothing I can do to change.
Yeah, we have friends who are real apathetic and just,
like 90% of them.
yeah, they're either very, I have many, as a professor, I have many liberal friends, so they may be active, but any of my conservative friends in Illinois, they've just given up. There's just nothing to do. They're apathetic. They don't even vote.
I remember going to the Chicago projects, and I was a little leery, but it's about 5 miles from my shop. And I remember, very specifically, it was election day. And I see this stream of buses going in front of the projects. And then, of course, I caught some background noise, and what I heard was, we have to vote today if we want to stay if we want to live here still. So when you were talking about organizers to get people to move out to vote, I'm telling you, this is gospel, that I heard, if you don't go vote today, you may not be able to live here anymore. So that's just one of the things that sit on a man's plate and just eats into you after so many years.
So what did you do about it?
Well, after becoming more aware, watching all kinds of news, reading all kinds of things online and elsewhere, it started with actually with Glenn Beck's project that was originally known as We Surround Them. And that was, I think, the first step towards activism. Glenn Beck said on my March 13th show, I want you to watch it, but I want you to go to your local taverns and meet people that you've not met before. Realize that there's other people of like minds, and maybe you should get to know each other, and hence the name We Surround Them. And so we went on March 13th to a local tavern, and a woman named Diane Egan had arranged this meetup. And so that's the first time I met her. And Diane Egan is one of the organizers for the San Antonio Tea Party. And so then we got involved with the San Antonio Tea Party, which has been a wild ride.
How did the San Antonio Tea Party come about, precisely?
There was actually a tea party in San Antonio before the April 15th one, and I'm sorry, but I've forgotten the date. And it was started by a woman named Joni, and it was in front of the Alamo. And it was a small event. And there was a few websites that said San Antonio Tea Party, and it turned out that there was a group that was Diane Egan and a group that was Joni, and it was a little bit confusing. There was a meeting of the San Antonio Tea Party about mid-March, just probably March 20, I think. And we didn't attend. We didn't really know which San Antonio Tea Party, even though we were thinking about it at the time, to go to. And it wasn't until Sunday at the end of March, March 26th, was the first time that we went to a meeting. And it was, I think, only their second meeting. And on their website it said, we need a treasurer. And as an accounting professor, I thought, cool, this is something that we can do. And it started right then, and within a few days, Glenn Beck said he's coming to the Alamo, and we really had about 2.5 weeks to put together a very big party.